Cookbook collaboration is more than just getting the recipes down. It's also about channeling another person's voice and telling their story. Welcome to Everything Cookbooks, the podcast for writers, readers, and cooks. This is Kristin Donnelly, and today I'm here with Molly Stevens. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Kristin.
I'm particularly excited about our guest today.
Yeah, Korsha Wilson. I mean, she is a real journalist. She went to journalism school. She writes for a lot of newsprint. She really brings a journalistic approach to her collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, she has bylines all over the place. The New York Times, Saveur, Food and Wine, New Yorker, Boston Globe, Boston Magazine. It goes on. Her byline's been out there for many years. This is not an overnight success story at all.
Not at all. The collaboration piece is so interesting. I mean, I know you've just come off a huge project collaborating with Sean Sherman. But I remember when I was starting out, a very good friend of mine did some collaboration. I've done a little bit, but there's this image of running around the kitchen with
the notebook.
Writing, getting the recipes down and just translating chef recipes into sort of home cooking. And I don't think I'm sure there's some of that goes on, but doesn't seem like that's really
the way as much. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it happens when people live close together, or if that's the way the author wants to work, whether it's a chef or another author. But more and more in my experience, the authors are hiring collaborators often because they're pretty busy. And so they often prefer to work as remotely as possible, perhaps with like a few concentrated days or weeks of like getting together. Yeah. So a lot of the work really does happen through remote interviews, perhaps traveling together, which I know we will talk to Korsha about. But yeah, like running around the kitchen, jotting down quarter tablespoons isn't often how it happens. A lot of times the chefs give us the recipes, whatever form they're in, and we, fix them up for the book. Korsha Wilson, we talked about her career as a journalist, but she has written 2 books with another in the works. The first one is called Vegan Mob by Toriano Gordon, and he was actually a guest of ours back in 2024 when Andrea, Kate, and I went to Cookbook Fest in Napa. He was our guest for this live episode that we recorded, which was great. And what's really cool is he talks about Korsha in that episode.
And he talks about how she channeled his voice.
Yeah,
and I think
totally.
That, to me, is really the art, the skill of being a good cookbook collaborator. How do you get someone else's voice?
Yeah.
And not just make it so you sound like them, but you are them. I mean, you really can tell their story the way they would tell it.
Totally.
It's not easy.
Yeah. And then she did it again with a book that came out in 2025 with Eric Ajapong, Gone into the World, Recipes and Stories that Look Forward While Honoring the Past. The other thing that's super exciting about Korsha is that she is relaunching her podcast, A Hungry Society. Actually, the first episode just relaunched a couple of weeks ago, so we'll make sure we link to that in the show notes. She calls it a dinner party where she talks with the most interesting people in food. So I'm really looking forward to adding that to my playlist.
Yeah.
So let's bring on Korsha. Korsha, welcome to Everything Cookbooks.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat about cookbooks today.
So we'd love to just hear a little bit about your journey into becoming a food writer.
It actually started at 10 years old.
Yeah,
really, really early. My mom and I would do these weekly trips to Borders bookstore. My mom would let me run around while she read. I remember looking through the magazine aisle and finding a Saveur magazine.
Wow.
I didn't know food writing was a thing. I'd never heard of it. I bought that magazine. I brought it to my mom and I was like, this is what I want to do. And she was like, I don't know what this is, but we'll figure it out.
Nice.
So in my middle school and high school mind, I thought, oh, well, in order to write about food, you have to know food and writing. So I have to go to culinary school and journalism school. I went to CIA first and then went to journalism school at Emerson. Turns out you don't have to do that. You can just do the writing part. But I'm really glad I did because it gives me kind of a shorthand to talk to chefs. And it's really helpful for cookbooks because I can ask some of the questions that our editors may have eventually about an ingredient or a step or, is there a way to streamline this process? I can kind of translate the chef speak for the home cook.
That makes sense. I was wondering, because I saw you also went to journalism school, like, has that been helpful? Because it's true, you don't need to.
Yeah, it's been very helpful. I did major in print journalism instead of digital, so that if I could go back and maybe switch those two things, I would. But it was very helpful in terms of learning the standards of journalism and the way that you have to approach reporting and editing and fact checking. It was definitely way more intensive than I thought it would be, but it was like very helpful.
Yeah. I would think especially your work as a collaborator cookbook author, getting those stories out of chefs or your, collaborator, your journalism background really goes a long way.
Absolutely.
And I'm just thinking, because obviously your byline appears quite a bit in Saveur, what that moment was to I don't know when your first article appeared in Saveur, but...
Yeah, it was like a pinch me moment. It was definitely, I think it was like 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
I actually got to go to the offices in 2019. And that was a big pinch me moment of like going into the office and seeing the big Saveur sign. And it felt full circle for sure.
How did you go from that really early part of your career where you're a student to getting that first byline?
So I actually started writing for free in Boston.
Okay.
There was an alternative weekly paper called The Weekly Dig. Yeah. Also, RIP, a lot of alternative weeklies, unfortunately. But I basically reached out and was like, hey, can I do some food writing about Boston for the paper? And, it was unpaid. And they were like, sure, we'll take whatever you want to send us. So that gave me like my first bylines. And it was just like little events around the city. I wrote about like a Valentine's Day event. I wrote about sushi at this really cool spot in Cambridge. I wrote about salt cod at Portuguese, Spanish, and Caribbean restaurants in Boston. And that helped me get enough bylines to eventually write for Boston Magazine.
Cool.
And that was my first paid piece. And I think that was like $250.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I was working as a cheesemaker at the time. And like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to go full force into trying to write as much as I possibly can. But I still kept my cheese making gig because I needed to get paid.
Sure.
Amazing. And these days, are you still pitching or are you things coming to you?
It's a mix of both, which is really nice. So with the cookbooks thing, each one that I've worked on, except for the first one, someone reached out. But the other ones, it's been me pitching. And these are chefs that I've been a fan of. So, when it's come time for them to write their proposal, I like to get involved at the proposal stage. I'll say, I'm a really big fan of yours. I think I can bring something to this project and go from there.
Oh, that's cool. So a lot of times you're like making that connection super early before they're thinking about the book. So then.
Yeah. Usually I've written about them in the past.
Got it. Okay.
Or I've been to their dinners or been following their career. And it's just like, it feels like a natural fit because I understand their cooking a bit already. I'm not coming in blind. So I'll just say, if you're looking for a collaborator, I'd love to work on this with you.
Got it. And which was the first book?
Vegan Mob was actually the first one that came out,
right,
but signed the contract for Ghana to the World first.
Got it.
Which I'm sure y'all understand, projects taking longer.
Right. I think it was 2019 I read that you and Eric connected for Ghana to the World.
Yeah. And I had written about him for the New York Times after his time on Top Chef. We kept in touch. I saw him March 2nd, 2020 in Philadelphia at Philly Chefs Conference. And he mentioned he was working on a proposal. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to work with you on that if you're looking for a collaborator. And he said yes. And then the world shut down and we had a lot of time to work on the project.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know how many years ago was it, Kristin, when you and Kate and Andrea were at the Cookbook Fest out in...
Well, that was 2024 when we spoke to Toriano.
Right. You interviewed him and he said, without Korsha, it would have been a problem. We were looking at other writers, he said, and no shade on anybody, but it was like, some of them are trying too hard to be hip and talk like me. This is Toriano speaking. You can hear his voice in this.
I could tell.
And so not knowing the full side of who I am, Korsha was the perfect fit.
Oh.
I was a bit concerned because she was on the East Coast and we talked different. The slang was different, but she channeled her Toriano and we worked well.
Yeah. I mean, just Oakland and the Bay Area just runs through Toriano so much. With him and with a lot of my collaborators, it's a lot of interviewing at first, just to hear their voices, their cadence, recording the conversations, sometimes verbatim, pulling from the transcript exactly how they said something. Or the next time we talk, being like, tell me again about that Chinese restaurant you grew up going to. What was it about that spot that you loved so much? And then writing that down exactly how they said it. So with Toriano, it was very much that. And me going out to the Bay, of course, because you have to feel it, you have to see it. Yeah, I channeled my Toriano by just listening to Toriano and just documenting Toriano. And I followed him around for a day in the Bay Area, and he is like a celebrity. So that helped too. It was really easy to capture that and just report it on the page. It was just like, how can I get a behind the scenes look at how Toriano became Toriano and how Vegan Mob became Vegan Mob?
I think a lot of our listeners, they're aspiring cookbook authors, some interested in collaborating and thinking. And I know for myself, even thinking, well, I bring a culinary background, so I know how to cook. I know how to translate recipes. But Korsha, you're talking about this whole next level journalistic approach to it, where you're getting these stories, with this keen observer's eye, but then figuring out like transcripts, things like that is, I think it really sets this type of collaboration apart.
Oh, thank you.
Kristin, would you agree with me?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was also thinking it's interesting because as a reporter, you're writing in the third person, you're writing about them. But then for these collaborations, you're taking that skill, but then you're writing in the first person, usually basically steeping yourself in that voice and writing as if you are them. It's pretty cool.
Oh, thanks.
Well, especially because like we looked at a bunch of your own work where it's your byline, your voice, and you're writing it's so much gorgeous description and
like scene setting. I was saying like you're really good at setting a scene.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So, but those are two really, I mean, they're not separate, but to be able to transition into somebody else's voice, but still have a very strong voice of your own. I'm just sort of wondering, as you develop as a writer, is one easier?
Scene setting is absolutely my favorite thing to do when I'm writing.
Nice.
I love like bringing someone into exactly what I'm seeing, tasting, feeling. And that's come in handy with the cookbook writing because that's essentially what I'm doing as a collaborator, right? Is I'm just like getting into the mind of the chef that I'm working with and trying to bring the reader, the home cook along, no matter where their skill level is at, try to explain to them why this matters. What is it that's so fascinating about this dish, this place, this region, this type of cooking? So they're connected, but like you said, I have to like switch between the first person and the scene setting, but it doesn't feel that disconnected for me because it feels like it's all part of the same story. The story that I'm trying to weave through the book of why this person cooks, why this person loves food, why this person is passionate about what they do. Yeah, it all kind of plays together. And what's funny is that I never, ever thought cookbooks would be part of my career.
Yeah, I was wondering that, like, if you saw that as a potential progression or...
No, definitely not. And I thought for a long time that I hated recipes, actually.
Oh, talk more about that.
Yeah, I felt like they were so restrictive. And this was college days. And I was just like, I like to get into the kitchen and freestyle and Yeah, and then I realized working on Vegan Mob, actually, there is a way to be really generous and helpful when working with recipes. It's not about restricting someone. It's actually about making something easier for a home cook and actually bringing them into a dish, a story that they maybe wouldn't have had before. So I had to flip my thinking on recipes.
With Vegan Mob and your other books as well, what is your role with the recipes?
So it depends. Like for Vegan Mob, I helped with getting them down on page and testing a few of them. And then we had tester come in. With Ghana to the World, I wanted to test about a quarter to half of the recipes to get that part of the story down. But now going forward, I focus strictly on narrative and then work on the head notes and then bring in testers because they're much faster than me.
Got it.
They just have that like reflexive tester muscle already built in. But I also, for stories that I write, I also test recipes and do reported recipes as well. So it's definitely still part of my work.
Beyond the head note and the narrative, are you translating or writing the recipe so they fit in? You're taking it from, say, the chef's recipe and putting it in a narrative that'll fit in the book? Are you doing that piece?
No. So a lot of the chefs I work with, they'll have their recipes already, like the recipes they want to include in the book. And we may not use all of them. Like with working with Eric, he had a Google Drive of 80 recipes ready to go.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
He sounds really organized.
He's so organized and efficient, very much on top of it. So he came with that ready to go and needed help with the narrative piece of it, right? But then there's some chefs I work with who they haven't written it all down, but we start talking through the narrative and they're like, okay, I want to include this recipe in this because it fits into the story. I ask them to have that piece, like write those recipes down, and then we'll work on the narrative and how the recipes fit into that. But yeah, the head notes I take on.
Okay. And when it comes to like the, I guess, recipe editing, are the testers helping with that sometimes?
Yes, very, very much so. I mean, I can kind of tell now when like a chef will say onion dice, it's like, okay, how big is the dice? Are you talking little? Are you talking big? Like I can do some of those top line stuff, but a tester really gets in there and is like, hey, can we streamline this a bit? Or, this ingredient actually doesn't show up in the method. So a tester is just like a second set of eyes to make sure that every single recipe works.
But you're not doing the kind of collaboration where you're following the chef around the kitchen and writing down what they're doing.
I actually do that for the New York Times with reported recipes. So some of the recipes that I've contributed to the site, I've had home cooks actually come into my kitchen and do it, or I'll do it with them via Zoom or go to their kitchen. And then I'll do exactly what you're saying, where I'm like writing down amounts and method and preparation and all that.
We want to get more into Ghana to the world, but what you said about the generosity of a recipe, it's such an interesting concept because I often feel the same way. Like, who needs recipes? Recipes are restricted. They don't teach you how to cook. But so much of a through line, Korsha, of your work is this communicating that Black cooking is not a monolith. That it's like I think about your New York Times article about Caribbean cooking island by island and just sort of breaking down and helping people understand and doing the same thing with Ghanese cooking now. And so recipes are a way to help people understand this.
And open up a world to them, right?
Yeah.
So my hope is that with some of the recipes in Ghana to the world, it's like, okay, you need to follow this verbatim. It's a very traditional thing, but like the corn curry bisque.
With the salmon, that one?
Yes, yeah. It's so good. Like you can make that and then put your own spin on it the next time you do it. Make it a little spicier. If your corn is like perfect in season, add a little less cream. Do some extra shallots, do some chervil, or play with like the herbs.
Different fish.
Like, yeah, different fish. You could do some scallops, some shrimp. Yeah. And again, that's that generosity of you're bringing people in and then kind of opening up the recipe to them to do what they want and have it like be their own.
Eric was talking, I heard him on the Taste podcast, and he was talking about the organization of the book, like how to bring together the traditional dishes with, he's a chef and is always reinventing or, putting his spin on things. And he did say you were instrumental in helping organize the book. Can you speak more about that?
Yeah, he's very kind. Working on that book, I was really concerned that, because some folks maybe haven't had West African cooking before and not specifically the food of Ghana, I was worried that people wouldn't be able to tell what's traditional, what was Eric's more modern take. So there's these great Adinkra symbols in Ghanaian culture that speak to different proverbs. So I looked into those symbols and found one for traditional and one for, pushing the envelope a bit. And so we use those symbols to denote what's a super traditional recipe that Eric grew up eating and making with his family and what's his take. So people could see immediately, like, this is Eric's version, or this is, Eric's like combining diasporic influences, and this is a super traditional dish from Ghana. Because I didn't want people to feel lost in those recipes.
Yeah. And I know, like, sometimes when there's books about a cuisine, there's always people who are very, they defend that cuisine. So was that something you worked on pretty early with the designer?
No, that was actually once we had the book, not in its final layout, but in one of the first iterations, it was like, whoa, okay, this is overwhelming if you don't know. If you're just jumping in and leafing through, this is overwhelming. Yeah. So how do we make this visually make sense to readers very quickly?
Got it.
It's a brilliant design tactic. They're beautiful. And then the other organizational piece that is Eric's story, his life story, really, from how he grew up to his journey as a chef to going to London halfway through when he turned down the job offer. And so each chapter opens with an essay that takes us along on this pretty remarkable journey.
Yeah.
How did that organization come about?
So the plan was, before I even joined the project, the plan was his life story. And in those early meetings that he and I had, it became clear to me that not only did Ghana and America inform him as a person, but as a chef. And so the word Sankofa, or, it's not taboo to go back and fetch what you forgot, that symbol of going back and forth really just made perfect sense in terms of his story. And so it was like, okay, how do we illustrate that? How do we show that? And it became his story, the essays about his life growing up in New York and then going to Ghana, and then also the recipes, looking at how he takes all of these influences and mashes them together into his own unique cooking. Yeah, it just became really kind of obvious. Working on the project, it was how can we take each sort of crucial step in your journey and lay it out for a reader so they understand Sankofa as well and can see how it shows up in their life.
Right.
How two places, how lessons from early childhood can show up again and again.
And not just put the story one big mass at the beginning of the book, which
right.
I don't know, was that a discussion at any point?
Yeah, so it was our editor, Jen Sitt at Clarkson Potter, who was so talented. She was think about it as you're laying out the story like a book, and then you're laying out recipes in between. And so that was really helpful to think about, because I was thinking in terms of chapter books and each chapter has to be super long and each recipe has to correspond to exactly what's happening. And she was kind of let that go. And it's okay to lay out soups and salads, meats, swallows, do that and lay out the journey in between.
At what point during the writing process did you go to Ghana together?
Yeah, so I went in 2021.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been working on it for a bit at that point, and I was there for 2 weeks.
With your mother?
Yeah.
Yes, my mom came.
We'll put a link. There's a wonderful article that Korsha's you wrote for Saveur about that trip. So we'll put a link for our listeners, but please tell us.
Yeah, my mom had been to Ghana a couple times before, loves it there. So she tagged along. I think she would have come in any case. She was going to make that trip. But getting to be in Ghana with Eric for 2 weeks, and speaking of being a celebrity, he's a celebrity there.
Oh, wow, cool.
Oh, yeah. So, going around to different restaurants, meeting some of his family. We actually had a camera crew with us from Hulu, which was really fun. It was life-changing. And, he kept saying while we were working on the book, you've got to come to Ghana, you've got to come to Ghana, because otherwise you're missing a crucial element of this. And he was right. To be there, to taste the food, to feel the atmosphere, to meet people, to talk, to taste, it was absolutely crucial to writing the book. And the book wouldn't be the same if I hadn't taken that trip.
Yeah, again, with the scene setting that you love to do, I imagine you just can't get into it in that way.
You can't, and you can watch all the YouTube videos and Anthony Bourdain episodes you want.
But you can't smell it, you can't taste it.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't feel the market, you can't feel the Cape Coast, you can't feel being in a slave castle. You can't feel that via text or video. You have to actually go.
Was there anything about the food there that surprised you or felt different than when people cook it here?
Yeah, spice.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an earthy spice in Ghana that like I haven't had since, and you kind of miss it. I made the mistake of when I came back going to a diner, because I'm in Jersey, and I went to a diner for a meal afterwards, and I was just like, this is terrible. Because I was missing like chilies and like char, and I was like, oh, I'll have some disco fries, and I was just, I can't eat this. Like, yeah. There's also, their limes are like pretty small, like golf ball sized and dusty brown, and they have like this like rounded sort of earthiness as well. They're not as tart as the limes we are maybe familiar with, and I just haven't found that flavor either. So yeah, those are the two like biggest flavors I've been missing since my trip. Yeah.
And when you say spice, was there a particular spice or more just like the quality of it?
There's shitar, which is this like fermented chili paste, like kind of like XO sauce, but it's has these dried little shrimps in it and these peppers and oil, and it's just like funky deliciousness, and it's on every table in Ghana, at restaurants, at homes, and you put it on everything. So finding like a good jarred version of that has been really hard. In the book, there's 2 versions of it that are really, really tasty. The green one is my favorite. Yeah, I miss just being able to go into a restaurant and have a jar of that and just like put it on everything.
At what point in the writing did you go on the trip?
About 1.5 years.
And the location photos that are in the book, are they from that trip?
They are. Yeah. Really, really talented photographer Carlos, who's based in Ghana, did the photos in Ghana. And we spent, 2 weeks with a fixer who's also local. We just, oh my gosh, we were hitting the pavement so hard. Days started at like 7, went till 10.
And did your mom do all of it with you?
Oh no, sometimes.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, I'll be at the hotel by the pool.
Yeah.
But she did make some of the trips, which was really lovely. And it was also just nice to process with her, like all the things I was seeing and tasting. It was just a life-changing trip.
Yeah. You know, when you write about in the Saveur story, the flavors of Ghana stayed with me like campfire smoke that permeates your clothes. It's just very evocative, and I can see how important it is too, because the cookbook is translating, bringing those flavors to an American audience. I mean, that's the audience for the book too. So you can see how their trip is incredibly impactful and important.
Yeah, especially as like a Black American, it was really, really important for me to see that and be there, and also bring that to the book. I can't wait to go back. I'm like, really want to get back to Ghana and go to Nigeria and Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, and yeah, I've been itching to get back over there.
Yeah.
Molly and I were wondering a bit, just as a writer, how you've worked on crafting your voice over the years.
I have journals going back to like 2015, but I'm always just carrying a journal with me. And sometimes it's my to-do list, daily, here's what I got to get done. And sometimes it's interviews in there. And then sometimes it's just me writing down, okay, I didn't get that much done today. That's okay. It's okay. Yeah. We'll pick it up tomorrow. Also, you're avoiding pitching this piece. Why? What are you afraid of? So yeah, journaling has been really, really helpful. I will also say working with the Times and working on cookbooks with an editor over and over again, like that repetition, has been really helpful. I reached like a point in my career in 2022 where I was like freelancing for so many places and writing for so many different editors. It felt hard to get a cadence of like, this editor likes this kind of sentence, or the adjective here, maybe I can see them editing it in the future. But working with the Times over and over and working with certain editors over and over has really helped me like kind of hone, okay, this is how I want to say this. And I know this editor is going to push me to maybe add a bit more technique, or to add a bit more descriptiveness, or to add a bit more data So that's been like the past couple of years, super, super helpful. I just love I'm working with Patrick again, or Brian or Nikita. They're going to push me to make this piece the best it could be.
So like if you're working for a lot of different editors, a lot of different outlets, each experience you have to learn how they want to work.
Yeah, you're juggling voices.
Right. But if you get into a routine or you can get past those initial learning and get to a deeper level, a higher level.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you're jumping around between publications, you have so many different voices to manage. But when you have one voice, you can kind of play around in those lines a bit more. And so that's actually been really freeing. One of the best feelings is like submitting a piece and it not being edited too much.
Yeah.
It's just like little, let's talk about these little things. And I'm like, yes, I got it.
You really feel like you're evolving and developing when you, and also your own voice is, we talked earlier how it's a balance of you pitching and you're being approached, assigned articles, but you're being assigned for your voice. So it's sort of like you're already at that point. And back to the journaling, Korsha. So are you also doing observational journaling? Like have a meal, you're jotting down reactions?
I don't jot down reactions. If I'm reporting, like last week I was in a restaurant kitchen working on a story. So I'll jot down observations there. I don't do it in restaurants, just because servers and chefs tend to notice.
Yeah.
And it's so awkward. But I will take a menu. And like, when I'm leaving or the next morning, I'll jot down my thoughts. I did also want to ask, that question about craft was so, I love hearing writers talk about that. I'd love to hear both of you talk about how you work on your craft.
The same, like finding a good editor, working with a good editor and taking it, like studying their edits. For me, that was a huge part of it, was just what are they looking for and trying to write to what they wanted. And I had similar, trajectory where at first I was writing for a lot of different outlets and felt very scattered. But then when I, sort of got into a rhythm with a certain outlet, I knew what they wanted and I could chameleon myself to write, so it would come back without a lot of edits, and that was a huge part of it for me. And the other thing is just as much as I can to get the shitty first draft, get the shitty second draft, but to not turn in my first drafts and to just work it a lot. And I think the hardest part for me is always, and a lot of writers, is, starting.
Yes.
The first sentence is like, if I could only have a brilliant first sentence, the whole thing is going to just flow.
Yeah.
To let go of that and sometimes just put a placeholder up, and then sometimes I'll just jump in the middle and start writing. And it feels very uncomfortable because it's like, how can I develop this if I don't, I don't have my structure, which is, what I learned. So sort of getting rid of that perfectionism and just writing and knowing it's not going to be good at first.
Yeah. I used to work at Food and Wine magazine as an editor, but did a fair bit of writing there. In the beginning, everything was like rewritten. Like the content would stay, or the quotes I got would stay, but they would basically rewrite it. I mean, I was very young and green. So I started to study like, okay, they love this writer. Like, let's say like Peter John Lindbergh is like a travel writer. They loved his stuff. So I'd literally sit with those pieces and like go through what they did, like how they led in, how they, set the scene. At Food and Wine at the time, the editor was Dana Cowan, and she loves lifestyle, but she wasn't a big culinary geek at the time, especially. They often would sort of take out flavors interacting. Like if you talked about flavors interacting with each other, it would be like, oh, this is too foodie. And it was funny because then when I was working with Francis Lamb most recently on the head notes for Sean's book, he was like, can you add more about like the flavors and how they work together? And I was like, I'm so conditioned to like not do that. But yes, But so that was like early days, just studying the writers they liked and how to make that work. In the past 5 or so years, more of my work has been in copywriting, so like advertising. And it's very similar where you're adopting a voice. But I've done exercises just on my own where I'll take something that a brand has and I'll be like, what if Glossier was writing this? What if, I actually do a lot of work for Apple, but like, what if Apple was writing this? And just try to find very, very voicey brands and figure out like the same exact description, but how would each of them say it? I find that to be really interesting.
That sounds challenging too.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely just like stuff I've done on my own. Occasionally for brands, I've done like voice guides. So
a voice guide being like a style guide for voice.
Yeah, exactly. Very much like a style guide, but to try to describe the voice and maybe some examples. So I've done that before. It doesn't necessarily help with your own voice, but in my case, I'm always writing for somebody else. So
it's a good skill to have, though.
Yeah, it's fun wordplay. Like I feel like it exposes you to words you wouldn't often use.
Something I learned from Andrea is reading aloud what I've written.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly have done it, but to me, there's a musicality to prose that when it hits, it really hits.
Yeah.
And, it's not always appropriate and you don't want every sentence, but to be able to pick up on it, sometimes I find reading aloud can really help me make choices.
That's such a good, I forget that one. Something I also tell journalism students is to print.
Totally.
Print out your story. You'll catch something or see something.
Yeah. It's so interesting how obviously it's going to be edited and corrected and for typos and things like that. But I just know, when I've done editing and when I receive copy that's got mistakes, I immediately am like not as receptive to the rest of it. So to clean up your copy, it's a level of professionalism, really.
Absolutely.
I am curious, just like the business of freelancing and how books fit into that and like how you maintain the cash flow, I guess.
I mean, books have really, oh my goodness, helped create enough money to be able to continue to freelance. Like I said, I didn't see cookbooks being part of the journey, but they actually fit in really well. And financially being able to work on cookbooks, get the lump sum payments or the payouts at different points of the journey and then freelance around that has been really helpful. And it gives me the ability to be really picky about what I take on and what I don't.
Yeah, that's great.
Like 2016, 2017, I was just kind of taking whatever I could, especially because I just moved to New York from Boston. And now I can be like, no, that pay isn't high enough, or, that's not really my expertise, but here's someone you should talk to. The books have really, really helped with that.
That's cool.
That's great. And you have an upcoming book. You're working with Honeysuckle Provisions?
Yes. So Chef Omar Tate in Philadelphia has a fantastic restaurant called Honeysuckle. I actually wrote the first piece about Omar ever back in 2018 when he was a line cook in New York City. Yeah, he was doing these pop-ups that referenced Zora Neale Hurston and Edna Lewis and Langston Hughes. He was just doing this outside of his day job, and I was like, "Who is this guy? I've got to meet this guy and write about him and his literary influences." We've been good friends ever since. Actually, hold the record for the most honeysuckle visits of his pop-up. And during the pandemic, he was working on a proposal, and I knew it was between me and another writer. And I told myself, even if he goes with the other writer, you'll support, you'll buy the book, obviously, you'll moderate talks, you'll whatever. But then he asked me to do it. And I was so thrilled. So the book is actually not just a cookbook, it's a travel log. He took a journey from Brooklyn to New Orleans, through Mississippi, to Charleston, actually found the plantation that his ancestors were enslaved on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, through records at the College of Charleston. Found the home that his family used to live in the city as well. And then he went to Charlotte and then back to Philly and then back to Brooklyn. And he kept a journal the entire time about the food he was eating, about art he was working on, poems he was working on. So the book is part recreation of that travel log.
Oh, wow.
It's called Honeysuckle Black Earth, and we're treating each stop on his journey as a different landscape that helps him create the world from which he's creating now, which is honeysuckle, where Blackness is completely at the center. So I'm really excited about it.
And there are recipes as well?
There are recipes, but they're more they're like jazz.
Like improvisational?
Exactly. Yeah. But the book is going to have some original artwork, some poetry, those jazz recipes. And I'm really excited. I feel like it's going to kind of push the idea of what a food narrative story can be. So yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
And when's the pub date?
It's supposed to come out at the end of the year. So hopefully
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Are there lessons from your other 2 chef collaborations that you're applying to this new project?
It's so different from those other 2 just because it's not straightforward cookbook. The lesson is keeping a chef on a schedule, which I'm sure both of you know can be challenging. Mm-hmm. But I'd say content-wise, it's pushed me in a lot of ways. We have vignettes about Omar growing up in Philadelphia, where we're actually talking through the voice of Omar at 12, at 9, and different text on the page. So it's a bit more, it's not like anything I've done before, but it's been really, really gratifying to work on.
Is there any advice you'd like to give to somebody who's maybe just starting out as a food writer or potentially is already a food writer but looking to get into books?
Oh, if you're looking to get started, something that a senior editor told me is that they wish they'd had cell phones when they were starting out. Just start telling your story. Start talking about what matters to you. Start talking to people that you admire in the food world. When I moved to New York, I started just following writers and editors that I admired from afar and asking if I could buy them coffee or if we could grab lunch. And just when they shared something, reading it and actually offering some, oh, this made me think of this, or I loved how you did this. Just engaging, you have that opportunity right now. And then if you're looking to get in the books as a freelancer, think about the chefs that you enjoy the most now and follow them. Support their work, go to their dinners. Let them know that if they ever want to write a book, you're there. And then reach out to other writers who have worked on books and ask them how to approach, navigating a contract, navigating a proposal, and a collaboration. I'm always happy to share proposals that have sold with people and talk to them about, when you're looking at a contract, here's what you need to think about as a writer to protect yourself and what you should ask of your collaborator as well.
Yeah, that's such good advice. And we didn't ask this before. When you were navigating your contracts, do you work with an agent?
I do, yeah. So I have a fantastic agent. Shout out to Monica. She's fantastic. She navigates all my contracts, but we also have a talk about the project before it ever gets to that phase. And we talk about what I like about it and timing and what's going on in my life and how that could work with that. So it's an ongoing discussion.
It's cool.
Amazing. Oh, before we let you go, Hungry Society, it lives on as a podcast?
It is relaunching. It's coming back.
That's exciting. Oh,
I know.
We buried the lead.
Yeah, so it's relaunching. There's going to be a Getting to Know You episode that drops in February.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, where I have people kind of in my circle ask me questions.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Instead of me asking questions. Yeah. And then we're doing a food critic season where we talk about the state of food criticism and where we think it's headed.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us.
Wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Kristin and Molly. It was great to chat with you.
Thank you for listening to Everything Cookbooks. For more about each episode, subscribe to our newsletter at everythingcookbooks.substack.com. Here are some other ways to support the show. Go to everythingcookbooks.com and check out our totes, t-shirts, sweatshirts, and other merch, or buy us a round of coffee. You can also leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Thank you to our editor, Abby Circatilla. Until next time, keep on writing, reading, and cooking.